Good to get a win. It's always good to win in this league. I mean, I keep telling our players that a lot of parity and those kids play hard, and sometimes it's not exactly how we draw it up. Sometimes we make it harder on ourselves, but at the end of the day, it's like, can you figure out a way? And I think our guys did. Played really solid defense, and at times on offense we were good and shot ourselves in the foot a little bit. But like I said, sometimes that's how it goes, and we'll be back at it against the Cal Bears. What you got?
Just the identity now through 8 games. I mean, you talk about kind of grinding it out and things like that. Is that something that you ever kind of take into account when you're game planning and things like that? And you look at Cal, for instance, they've given up the most points per quarter in the fourth quarter. So do you just kind of pound, and then all of a sudden the door opens?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think we're just always trying to be better. I mean, I really do. I think that's what it is. We're just trying to figure out, why did this play not work? Why are we, how do we score more points? How do we convert more third downs? All those type of things. But we do talk about trying to, play our best in the fourth quarter, no matter what the score is, and kind of go from there. But, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a couple teams around that are great with our identity and saying, hey, we're good where we are, but we're certainly not one of those teams.
I'm just curious because last year I noticed through 8 games, or at least the 7 FBS games you guys played last year, I think you had about 24, 25 plus plays of 25 yards or more. And I know a lot of those were Dante Pettis, Hunter Bryant, and you don't have those guys out. Is that something that you have to readjust or take a different look at when you're game playing and notice that maybe some of the big play guys aren't there anymore?
Yeah, I still think we have some explosive guys. I really do. And so I think we're always trying to just figure out a way how to shake guys loose, and the best way to attack a defense. Cal's going into this week really good against the pass. I mean, and so, you do take those things into consideration, but you're just trying to figure out, okay, I mean, how do you attack them the best you can and let your playmakers go?
Did Savon show you anything else? Anything new on Saturday? Maybe playing not 100%?
Yeah, I mean, I think, certain guys your guys are aware of, but most of our team's not healthy. I mean, that's just how it goes when you're this deep into it. And, the guys that are, I mean, you just thank your lucky stars. And if, you're going to go and really can't help us, we got to get another guy in there, because that's not going to help you or the team. And we want to be smart and safe. But, I thought he did a nice job. I mean, that guy is, hard to tackle.
First, the gesture Savon made after the touchdown.
Yeah.
Did you know right away what
No, I didn't see it. I mean, I think it was kind of late and all those things. And, like I said, after the game, you guys get fired up, and sometimes your emotions just get the best of you.
Do you have a conversation with him during the game about that, or is that just kind of...
It just depends, it just depends. I mean, like I said, it's something that we address, we take care of, but it's not something that's like a concern. I mean, like I said, I think Savon's a great kid, I really do. And but sometimes, when you're playing in the heat of the battle, you just got to learn to control your emotions and not hurt the team.
How much does that, do you think, spills over from last week and just having a tough loss and feel like you got to come back and prove a point?
I don't really think it does. I think you're not thinking about the last week. I think you're playing hard in the moment and playing against a good team and grinding it out. And he kind of made something out of nothing, and was emotional about it.
Did a player get called for leaping over a wedge on a punt like Alex did?
Yeah, 10 years ago when it was legal. So, it just kind of comes back to coaching. I mean, it's stuff that we try to address, like all these little nuances of the game that you don't see a whole bunch. And if we do see it during the week from somebody else, we have guys that are paying attention to what's going on in college football and even in pro football that we can address with our guys and show them tape, that we will. And it comes back to us doing a better job of educating them, because the guys are going to play hard, and if you don't hammer some of these things that you think are really obvious to us, but they're not to these guys. I mean, we, as coaches, we live at 24/7, like all this stuff, and they don't.
Are you a fan of that?
Well, it's all about player safety, and so if you look at Alex landing on his head, you can see why the rule is there. I think it started to change years ago, really on the kickoff team, when a wedge was legal and guys were just catapulting themselves over that wedge. And so it's really for protection of that player, not necessarily the guys that they're going against. So, when it comes to that, yeah, we're a fan of it, player safety.
Rules changes, for instance, like the pop-over kicks and the things that do on special teams. Is that a factor of what you've seen through 8 games with the effects of the new rules?
What do you mean the pop-over?
The ones where you're trying to find a spot where maybe it can land and create a problem instead of just trying to boom it out.
On kickoffs? Well, I think if we could boom it out of the end zone every time, we would easily just defer to that. But, a little bit of wind in the stadium always changes the kicking game. I mean, you see all these guys on tape that kick it out, and whether you're at altitude, a little bit of breeze at your back, it doesn't show up to in the normal game, but it shows up in the kicking game. And so you got to do what you got to do when they got really good returners.
So that's pretty much always a function of the wind and the direction.
A lot of times, and it just depends. If it's a wet day or a dry day, and the ball's going to carry. But you always want to keep them off balance.
It looked like he Taylor got a lot more game time this weekend. Was that partially because of the area touchdown, or because of Miller's health, and kind of combination? What did you see from Keith this weekend?
Yeah, I think that Jordan's being a tough guy, and he's practicing the whole time and all that. But it's late in the season, and he's taking some pounding, and we we'll play all those guys. So,
what stood out about the way Sean and Kamari have played the last few weeks, getting their opportunities, which maybe you don't learn about them in practice?
Maybe what I've learned is I didn't learn anything. They've done exactly what I thought they would do, and I think they've done what our whole offensive staff thought they'd do. I mean, those guys are good players, and they can make yards for us, and it's good to see those guys get in there, meaningful reps, and do what we think they can do. And that's really what it's kind of been. Is I don't think there's been a bunch of surprises.
What first stood out to you about Sean when you saw him in recruiting? What was the first thing that kind of caught your eye?
I think probably his vision. He was always kind of hitting the holes correctly and always making positive yards, and he played in a really good league, and was really productive in that league, and I just thought he was a really, really solid player.
Chris, the play before the last touchdown to Aaron, third down for the tie, was that ball just late, or was there just some miscommunication there?
Third down to, yeah. We'd like Ty to kind of hole up in there, and he kind of stayed on the move because he had a lot of space. And, Jake's under a little bit of pressure, and he's counting on being in a certain spot. So it was a little bit of miscommunication, and, something that definitely needs to, another one of those things, like you play the game, you're like, huh? We've done this a lot of times, and you can see when a guy's in space why I'd want to keep moving, but we got to be on the exact same page.
And then Levi had a play in the second quarter, late in the second quarter, where he pushes an offensive lineman back and then grabs a 5-yard TFL all on his own. And just talk about that play and kind of how fired up the sideline gets.
I mean, I think Levi, that's what I see out of Levi every game. Like he can he's really explosive, and the more consistent he can get and play at that level, I mean, he could really be something special. But yeah, that was, great execution always sparks emotion, and that's what it was. And guys get fired up when you see that, especially coming out of the D line. I mean, everybody could see it. It was just one of those plays. A lot of times you don't see what goes on in the D line, and this time, everybody could see what was going on right at the point of attack.
How do you evaluate the job that Bush and Jimmy have done for their first year as coordinators?
Yeah, I think I think we're doing a good job. I think our defense is playing at a pretty high level, and you know, we're we're doing what we need to do on offense to win games. I think we're always trying to, you know, figure out how to score more points. You know, Chris, you were talking about just our identity, and you know, sometimes it seems like it comes down to that fourth quarter, and we're kind of run the ball and slug it out, and you know, we have some really good backs and pretty good O-line, and not that our receivers can't make plays. It just kind of seems like that's kind of the nature that we've been going, and I still think it's always work in progress. I think we're always evolving, trying to figure out how to be better and how to maybe sometimes not make it so hard on ourselves.
A game like this weekend where you don't have Gaskin and you have basically all your running backs that you're going to have in the future, help, you know, in that long term, because it's not just about one game as you usually say.
I will just tell you this, we live in the here and now. We can't worry about next week or next year. I mean, we really can't. We got to figure out, try how to beat the team in front of us, and that's kind of how we go. Now, we all know that we need depth, you know, to do anything worthwhile around here. I mean, it's just, the team just continually changes.
You expect that Miles Saturday down there?
Hope so.
With Thule playing, was that the plan? I mean,
It was.
And did he get the plays that you wanted him to get?
I would have liked to see him play a little bit more, personally. Yeah, but it was good to see him in there. And I mean, you know, I do think, like I said last week, sometimes when those guys know they're going to get in the games, even their practice mentality can change a little bit and how it carries over. But I think we planned on playing him more than that. It's just how the game kind of went, and not that we were expecting a hard-fought game, but coaches got to make their decisions on how they're going to play their guys. But he did a nice job for 3 plays.
Well, I guess it stands to reason too that when you're going on the road to where he's from,
Yeah.
does that also kind of play into getting him kind of fired up about getting in there and doing something?
Yeah, I think we're still figuring out the plan every week, you know, what we're going to do with those guys.
When a good friend of yours like Mike Leach does you a favor, as he did Saturday, do you send him flowers, a restaurant coupon? How does that work?
I'm not even really sure how to respond to that right there. You know, I just know that, and I said it last week, and I'll say it, you know, after game 1, there's just so much football left to be played, and we can't start worrying. You know, you're so worried about somebody else, and then you don't take care of your own business, and so you know, that's the first step. And the main thing is that we won last week, and you know, certainly how that game went probably helped us, but not going to help us very much if we don't take care of, you know, ourselves this weekend. And I think I really mean this, I think we got a really dangerous Cal team. I know that we know those guys, we know those coaches. I think those guys are really well coached. I know how Justin runs that program, and we, you know, we better play at a very high level.
Did you get a chance to look at the film of any of Oregon, Washington State?
No, not the film. I saw some of it. We were doing some recruiting, and so I didn't get a chance to, you know, but I did see the TV was on, and so I saw it kind of, you know, I saw the score, you know, a little bit of the first half, saw the score, and then Oregon come back, and I think I saw at the very end of the game too, but I didn't see the details really of the game.
27-0, how did you react?
It's exactly what I tell our guys. This is a long game. College football's a long game. There's huge momentum swings, and you know, you saw it in the Oregon-Stanford game. You saw it in the Washington State. I mean, that's just how it is, and teams are going to make runs. And so, like, if we're going to pay attention to that game at all, that's the lesson out of it. I mean, you have to just keep playing, because when you have good teams, they're going to even things out.
Chris, the touchback on Chico, for lack of a better question, I guess, how frustrating, infuriating is that to see something like that happen?
Extremely. And I think there's probably nobody more frustrated in the whole thing than old Chico. You know, I mean, I know how frustrated he was at the whole thing. And, you know, sometimes it just comes to that point where you're trying too hard. You know, you're trying to make something happen. You're trying too hard. And those guys from Colorado got their hands on it and kind of pulled it out as he was going down.
Is that maybe kind of a sign of what you were talking about a few weeks ago with him, where he's back physically, but maybe football-wise kind of not
Yeah, I mean, you always have it with a few guys as the season goes on. Some guys, you get into a good groove, and some guys kind of get into a little bit of a rut. I mean, that's just sports, a little bit of a rut. I mean, and you gotta fight through it, and is that really that unique trick of not trying too hard, not caring too much. I mean, we care so much about this that it works against you sometimes.
And then on Cal, how much has this team improved in your mind from the one that you saw a year ago with Justin in his first year?
Oh, yeah, a bunch. And we knew they would. I mean, just kind of how they operate down there. I mean, not only do we know Justin pretty good, but a lot of those coaches and how they coach those kids and how hard they play. And, each week you see something better out of them. And so, yeah, what we'll get.
Do you get a sense, just kind of overall, how frustrating this season's been for Chico to come back off the injury and be healthy and maybe, struggle so far to...
Well, no, not really. I don't know. I mean, I know he's, I don't know that. You'd have to ask him. I know he's trying hard, and I know he's frustrated with a couple things that have happened, and the stuff's, like I said, it's important to all of us, and he's not alone in that. I mean, there's other guys that just go through these type of things, and you're trying to help them, get back to playing the best ball they can play.
What your comments on how cultures are built and things like that when you came to Washington, do you feel like what Coach Wilcox in California, are they right at that point now where the culture has been firmly established and now they can really kind of focus on taking those next steps?
It's really hard for me to answer that question because I don't know the inner workings of what is going on there. It takes some time, and I know it's a lot different than it was, 3 years ago, when he wasn't there. And, I know they know what they're doing. So, they certainly are different than they were last year.
What are the traits of a Bo Baldwin-led offense?
Yeah. I think they do. I think they play to their strengths. That's what I see. I think they'll do whatever they need to do to attack a defense and play to their strengths. I think there's certain teams that are kind of system-oriented, and it doesn't matter what you do. We have our system that we like, and it works against most stuff. Might throw out a few plays, but I think they're game planners. And I think that they'll attack you in terms of the coverages and fronts that you show up into, coupled with this is what we do well. So I think their offense can look different year to year, depending on who they have, and then they're going to certainly attack, you where you're at your weakest.
Does the preparation look different at all when you're facing a team that's going to bring two quarterbacks that are very different stylistically rotating like that?
Yeah. I think that's unique as well. I mean, they really use those two guys. I mean, depending on the game, whether one guy's going to go, the other guy's going to go. Excuse me, in the game, they're rotating the guys depending on plays. And I think still you just got to come down to do your job. You're still defending formations and then what you see post-snap. But it is a little bit unique. Now, both guys are runners. I think one's more of a runner than the other one, but they both, I think they're the second and third leading ball carriers on the team, so they're going to run those guys for sure.
Where does the Fuller one-handed catch Saturday rank on your?
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. Yeah, that was kind of like Kevin King's back a few years ago when he snatched it out one-handed. Yeah, it was impressive.
Has he even maybe exceeded your own expectations?
No, he really has not. He is not. I think he's that type of player, and I thought he was last year. We maybe just didn't get him the ball quite as much, but he's always been very sure-handed and really smart football player. I think that's one of his best qualities. He's just really smart, and that thing shows up. Like, he knows how to get open, and he's got, obviously really talented hands.
Does it also show up that maybe Jake will try to maybe make some throws to him that maybe he wouldn't to some of the other guys because he just has a trust and a feel?
I think you'd have to truly ask Jake that question. I think Jake kind of always goes with the ball where Reed takes him. And now if all things are equal, maybe he's going to put one up there, but I mean, I know Jake's going to go where the read takes him.
The one I asked was where he kind of goes up to the line of scrimmage and realizes it, and then he just kind of arm throws it to the sideline where you guys are at, and then Aaron makes the comeback and the scramble to get it. It just feels like he threw it up there kind of knowing that Aaron could make a play.
He could. But, I kind of think of a game or two back when he's kind of scrambling out on a little bootleg and throws it to Andre on the sideline on 4th down. And, that's kind of how I think. I mean, I think he trusts those guys. I mean, those guys have made plays now. I don't think he has any problem, like I said, if it's all equal, throwing it there. And
last week we learned from Larry Scott that there was a violation of protocol in the replay office regarding a play in Washington State and USC. Mike Leach was quite outraged. When you heard about this, were you dismayed, angry, concerned, or don't care?
I really just, I get enough problems, that's really how I think of this.
You might have a problem in the replay.
Well, hopefully they get that fixed, and I'm sure they will.
Does it concern you that somebody's making a decision in such a situation?
I think you're concerned when you don't feel like a call is correct. And there is some subjectivity in all this type of stuff, and I think everybody's working really hard. I think targeting is a really sensitive issue. That was that targeting, was that not targeting, and like I say every week, I just go back to what we can do, how we can help our kids with this whole thing, and I still see some helmet-to-helmet stuff that is like not targeting, in this day and age that I think is probably coming down the road. And so it's like, I just keep thinking about as coaches, how can we help this game and help these coaches, help our players just take the head out of the game. We talked about Jalen's hit, 2 weeks ago, and that's, it's a bang bang, and sometimes it's like, and so how do we recreate that, which is really hard to do in practice. So, I mean, really just the way that I think about this, I just always just worry about ourselves, and, sometimes things happen.
Complexity of what you just described about how to make that call. Is it dismaying at all that there's not a professional approach being done to the analysis?
Like I said, I know where you're going with this. I really, truly do. This is honest. I mean, I try to be as honest with you guys as I can. It really didn't concern us. They're going to fix it. I just try to worry about ourselves and, be the best we can. And we trust that we're going to fix the problem and move forward.
So you're not worried about a janitor being in the office and in school colors making that call?
Not really.
Do you think there should be different levels of targeting, though? For example, Jalen's hit against Oregon versus a Porter Gustin hitting with his helmet, blowing Gardner Minshew. Should there be different levels of targeting calls?
I mean, I'll tell you the only thing, and this is just, and I don't know if it's right or not, the only thing that kind of always feels, I said this again last week, feels a little bit weird to me is the guy getting thrown out in the second half that doesn't come back till the second half of the next game. That one is just for whatever reason feels different from a guy missing that game and you move on. But different levels of target. I mean, it is what it is. We got to take the head out of the game. That's how I think about it. I mean, we're not going backwards. I just don't think that in terms of those type of things. So
what could Jalen have done differently?
Well, like I said last week, I think you have to play this game like you don't have a helmet on. That's easy for me to sit here and say. But I think that how guys have been trained, like especially Jalen, who's played a lot of football through his years, and the game has changed dramatically since he's been in the game, of completely taking that out. And it's like, that's not the play. That's not how you do it. I mean, even if it's not, maybe it didn't go helmet to helmet, it goes helmet to shoulder pad, get the head out. I mean, those are just the things that we think about and try to help it.
What was the preparation like with that when you have a guy like Jalen who's warming up with the team and then the game starts and he can't get on the field? Is there any sort of things he was going through on the sideline, like leading up to the second half?
When everybody else is in the locker room at halftime listening to their coach, a few little adjustments, he's over there getting more warmed up than everybody else is. I mean, that's kind of how it goes.
Let's go back to the continual team improvement. Is there anything you're seeing now that you'd like the team to accelerate, whether it's execution or, and then B, what is it that you're happy about in terms of the team improvement?
Well, yes, we would like our guy. I mean, you know, we put the tape on every week, and I don't think there's ever a time that anybody's going, we're pretty good with this. We're pretty satisfied. I mean, it's just always the details. Like we could talk to her blue in our face. Our guys know this. It's like where we're at right now. There's not a, you know, whatever, each side plays 70 plays or whatever it is. There's not like very many missed assignments. There might be a couple, but there really isn't. That's not the issue. The issue is always a bunch of little details. And so I can sit here as a coach and go, we got to be more detailed. We got to be more detailed. That's not going to help those guys. Like we have to go out on the field and like recreate those details and then, you know, program the guys. And so that's what we're trying to do as coaches. So that's what we'd like to, you know, as a general statement, is be more detailed, and we got to do that for them as coaches.
Are you happy with the way the assistants that were set now are putting those situations in practice?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, our coaches work, I mean, they work hard. I mean, they're very aware. I mean, and we just, like I always say, I mean, we really, as a staff, don't try to ever put this on our kids that this is you know, we're in this together, and we need to teach them better if we're not getting it done. They need to go get it done for us, but it always comes back to us as coaches.
You talked about, Larry Scott also talked about player safety, health and welfare and all that stuff, taking the head out of the game and targeting. They also, when we talked about scheduling and buys, and is there something, do you have a thought on, you know, the fact that you still have 2 more games to play before your bye, and how that kind of works into the health and safety aspect of this stuff?
Yeah, I don't know about health and safety, but yeah, I don't think anybody's that fired up about it by week 10. You know, you'd like it somewhere in the middle, and I don't think you really like it early in the season. You'd like it somewhere in the middle of the season. But I think every year there's going to be a couple teams that don't have that luxury. Was it last year or the year before the USC had to play their whole, I mean, that is a serious competitive disadvantage. There is no question about it. And we play 10 games without one. But we just I mean, we're not, I mean, I think that our league is looking at those things, but from our standpoint, we're not going to sit here and complain about it and like this and that. I mean, it is what it is, and we just got to get it done, and that is our mindset. Now, I think those guys are looking at the schedule and like, how do we help this thing?
I'm not trying to trap you on this, but he said that in their scheduling, they don't, their process has been to not try to go into the season trying to pick winners or losers.
Yeah.
So he called it a very egalitarian approach.
Yeah.
Is that something that you favor?
I will tell you this, I'm not in favor if it doesn't help Washington. That's all I can tell you. I look at that and I'm like, I don't like this schedule, but I know they're not going to change it because of Washington. But when I look at that and see us game town, I don't like that. But, you know, they got 12 other teams to pay attention to, but all I can do is, you know, worry about our team.
With 4 games left in the
Yeah.
regular season, are we getting close to potentially Hunter Bryant making a...
We are getting close. I will give you that.
Saturday?
We are getting close. I will give you that.